fun, and it helps when the guy that you're working with is a friend of yours, not just a business associate.
That helps.
And Jack Harris and I, we went back to 1970. I mean, that was years before we ever worked together.
I was born in 1970. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, well, me and Jack went back to 1970, and when we started working together, I mean, it was really interesting. We were at opposite stations, and I was doing a show at what was an Irish bar in town.
Got me.
God, I can't think of the name of the Irish bar.
Not O'Malley's or something like that.
No, it was a chain. It was a chain of Irish stores.
Okay.
Irish bars. And we were doing the remote there, and you couldn't hear anything. There was no way you could take a telephone call. No way you could interview anybody because it was just terrible. I mean, the phones were a non-factor that day, and I had to fill 2 hours that night from 6 to 8. So after talking for about 15 minutes, I saw Jack Harris walk into the bar, and he was working at FLA. I was working at WNSI at the time.
Yeah.
And I told my producer, get Harris to come over here. I'm going to ask him about the Rowdies. And I had Harris on for the rest of the 2 hours. So that was the first time that we realized that there was a magic between us. We had that feel where, we didn't step on each other. It was just, it flowed so nicely. And they talked about that when they hired me to go work for them. The boss had actually heard that program, and he says, I know you and Jack will work good together. So that was in 1983.
Yeah, and you can't have
1983 when it went.
You can't have a super big ego either. You can't be totally full of yourself.
Absolutely.
That doesn't work.
We never had that problem. Never had that problem.
Thankful for being in, working hard, knowing that everybody pulls their share, but there's no stars. It's just you work, do a show, and then have a beer. And I love what you said at the closing, and you did every show. You just live it up, man. You really did.
Live it up, man.
Hey, do it, baby.
That's my mantra, man. I live that way, and I think that you'll be happier if you do.
I think so.
Never
I think so.
regret what you did, except regret not doing what you wanted to do. So live it up. You want to do this, do it. You want to do that, do it.
You only got one life. You only got one shot at it, and the potential for some people. And you can talk to people all day long, trying to motivate them and help them, but until something clicks in their own head and they make up their mind that they're just do or die kind of an attitude with laser beam intensity and stay focused. People ask me, said, how have you acquired your business and how do you stay successful? And it's like, because I was persistent, I never gave up.
That's the key, man. That's the key right there. Never give up and be persistent. That greasy wheel is the one that gets the oil,
That's right.
That dry wheel, that squeaky wheel.
It's got to squeak. You got to make some noise in the world. There's a lot of people on this planet. There's a lot of people.
Absolutely. If I didn't get hate email, I wouldn't feel like I was doing my job,
You can't please everyone. And the thing is, if you try, you're going to be absolutely miserable.
You're going to be depressed, man. I mean, that's a bad load to carry.
Yeah.
It's like, can't please everyone, so you've got to please yourself. Like Rick Nelson said in that song, Garden Party.
Nothing wrong with that, and nobody knows you better than you, and you know what makes you happy, so you just go out and do it. You try to make other people happy, but if they're not happy themselves, very little you can do at the end of the day.
Now, I got to tell you one thing Chuck Carter taught me, too. That was early on. He says, be yourself on the radio. He says, you see all these jocks that are copying Don Steele and Robert W. Morgan and all those guys? He says, those guys will never amount to anything because nobody does Robert W. Morgan and Don Steele better than those two guys. So,
True.
Why be a cheap copy of those guys? Be yourself. Be yourself.
That's it. Be yourself. Don't be anybody else. Don't pretend, because it's exhausting to be anybody else other than yourself anyway.
I hear you. I hear you.
Just one way, or that's it. And it's refreshing when people will run into you and they're like, "Oh my God, you sound exactly the same way you do when you're on the air." It's like, because this is my personality. This is who I am.
That's me. That's who I am. That's who I am.
Not going to be anybody else.
Best compliment. That's the best compliment anybody else can give you. When they say, they're having a conversation with you, they goes, "Man, you sound just like you do on the air." And I went, "Thank you."
And it makes you feel good, because you weren't a phony baloney, as they used to say, back in the day. Getting a little old when you're saying phony baloney, but my dad used to say that a lot, and he would talk a lot about that when I got into radio. He'd say, "Keith, don't be anybody else other than you. They don't want to see somebody else," And I was in New York. I got my start at WMCA back in the 80s, and there was a lot of personality there. And
oh yeah,
and so I was thinking maybe I needed to emulate anybody. My dad said, "Don't. Learn from them, but don't emulate." Not
absolutely. That's the key right there. I've learned from a lot of pros, man. I had the opportunity to work for a lot of great program directors like Jack McCoy, Willie Hennis, Michael Spears, Scott Shannon.
Big names.
These guys, Gabe Hobbs.
Oh, Gabe Hobbs. Awesome. Nice man.
Great guys with a lot of knowledge that passed on a lot of tips to me that helped me out in my 54 years.
And it helped you grow, because it's an evolving business. Radio's changed a lot in format and how you go about doing things. And of course, the famous consultants that tell you things you should and shouldn't do and all that. But it's stepping back from the broadcast and listening and saying, I guess there could be a different way we can go about doing that, just to make the broadcast much more interesting, more informative. And the biggest thing for radio is to build cume and then keep people interested in keeping that on the dial where they're not going anywhere else, not giving them a reason to tune anywhere else. And
absolutely.
So between yourself and Chuck, both of you guys certainly have magic. And so are you doing appearances occasionally here and there on different shows? You do something still, and it's called Webb's World, right?
I do an editorial every Wednesday morning that they run twice called Webb's World. I'm also doing 3 hours a week, 1 hour per day, Monday, Wednesday, and Sunday. I host a show with David Graham called Guaranteeing Your Retirement. And it's my financial advisor, a guy that I've had for several years, that I love the guy. I mean, the guy has saved me a lot of money.
He knows his stuff.
And, he knows his stuff really well, and he is about helping people. He's a fiduciary. He puts your interest above his. He doesn't charge you an arm and a leg for his services, and his whole thing is not about making you money, but saving you money so that you don't lose it at retirement.
And that's not just a commercial. I mean, that's real. I mean,
that's the real deal.
Yeah, and I got to say this, because there's been a lot of people that have been locked up for bad information on the air. He is not one of those, and they don't let these type of guys, especially on WFLA or on a Clear Channel or iHeart Media station these days. They're screened. So they're not telling you, you're going to double, triple your money if you put this money in. And
when the minute that they start going, the 10th caller to call in right now, run like hell.
Yeah.
Go to FINRA, FINRA, FINRA.org, and you can do a background check on any of these financial guys that are on the radio, and you will freak out with what you find.
Where can they listen to you on the air there? Are you on HNZ or on FLA?
I am on 1320 in Sarasota, and also on WHNZ 1250 at Tampa. You could listen at 1206 at WHNZ, and it comes on every day at that time. It's pre-recorded because it goes on 1340 in Sarasota is live at 9 o'clock in the morning, and 1250 HNZ in Tampa is pre-recorded on 1206.
Well, I'm so glad that you're still doing your thing.
Monday through Friday. Yeah, still still, you got to keep your foot in there. I mean, I love the business. I didn't leave the business because I hated it. I left the business because I was sick.
Yeah, and we wish you well with that. Are you making any headway, or are you just maintaining?
We're doing good, man. We're doing real good on dialysis. I started out at 4 hours. Then they cut me down to 3.5, and the nurse today says she's going to recommend to the doctor that they cut me back to 3 hours.
Wow,
is great.
A lot of it's nutrition, right, and what you eat and all that these days.
Exactly, and what not to eat.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain things that you eat that'll kill you, and then there's other things that you eat that will sustain you and make you last longer.
What do you eat now that's better for you? I'm just curious, seriously. What do you?
I eat protein. I eat chicken. I eat lamb. I eat meat. I try to stay away from the potatoes because potatoes are nothing but carbohydrates, which makes my sugar go up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not good for me because I'm a diabetic. Been a diabetic since 1985. So
Gotcha. Yeah, you got to keep that under.
I've been fighting. I'm like Chuck, man. I've been fighting health problems for years.
No, but nobody would have ever known it up until that heart attack and with the diabetes, though. But you are taking, whatever you can do to try to preserve your rest of your life. But I'm so glad that you do what you love and you're trying to get healthy and healthier. But I hope eventually they might be able to cut that machine off you, but at least it seems like you're making progress. That's a good thing.
Yeah, they will never be able to cut the machine completely off. I think 3 hours is the least that I can do.
Okay.
But at least I got down to 3 from 4 hours every other day. So
that's a good thing.
I feel good about my health. I'm getting sleep now, which I didn't get when I was getting up at 2:30 in the morning to do AM Tampa Bay.
I was always wondering.
Yeah.
How early does one get up that it's on at 5 a.m.? Was it 5 that you guys hit the airwaves?
Yeah, we went on the air from 5 to 9, but we got up at 2:30 and showered and shaved, ate breakfast, and then went down to the station to do some additional show prep. We're always doing show prep on AM Tampa Bay. I mean, it was like going to college and taking a course, because I'd go home every night between 4 and 6. I would do show prep and get the show prep put together and mailed to my producer at the radio station.
Wow.
I would then go to bed at 6:30 at night to get up at 2:30 in the morning.
And you did that for how many years? 34 years?
34 years.
Wow. That's incredible.
Straight with me. Yeah.
Well, listen, you're an inspiration, to me and to other people to pursue your dreams, never give up, work hard, and you've been able to do a lot of incredible things in our community here in the Tampa Bay area with charities and giving back and for, in West Tampa, you never lost your roots. You can be seen in West Tampa area, with Cafe Coleches, and I don't know how many you drink these days, but you're just you never got so big that you couldn't just talk to average people that had average jobs or average lifestyles. You just you were always just Ted, and people could call you that, and you got friends in high and low places, don't you?
I got a lot of friends in high and low places, both in there. I treat them both the same, And a lot of those guys in high places, I knew them when they were in low places. So.
And you never know. I tell people, you can get in trouble, and you might need me someday. You don't never want to burn a bridge because you just never know. Because life is funny that way.
Never burn a bridge, brother. Because especially in this business that you and I are in. Because guys that you're working right now that may be your board op one day turn out to be a GM. And I've seen that happen. Man. I got offered a job in 1970 in Miami, and Al Brady Law was the program director down there. It was an oldie station. And he offered me the job, and I went down to Miami and met with him and everything, but I just didn't get a good feel for Miami, so I turned him down. And back in 1986, I'm working at FLA, and who do they announce as the new general manager?